everything.
It's hollow, it's meaningless. They get drunk, they all do things. What they do, they go back to their religion, they open the book, and they understand the way they should understand. Because in the past, they understood it through their culture, through their mother, through their father. They did not read it, they just accepted it blindly. So many Muslims in the West, when they become hard believing in their religion, they study it. Like me, a year ago, I was just a Muslim. I didn't know what this was stuff. But when I opened it, I said, okay, it makes sense. This happened in my life. It talks about whatever it was. But when you see Christians, you don't go to Christians. Because if you're saying our religion is ridiculous, in the Bible there are the worst ridiculous things. You don't go Christians because you know. No. Wait. Let me finish. Thank you.
Yes.
Because they don't believe in their religion. When they open the Bible, they say, "Whoa, this is rubbish." But when a Muslim opens Quran, majority of them, they don't say it's rubbish. They say, "Wow, I found the reality." That's the point.
But
you want them to prove wrong.
Because the things in the Quran, there is a lot of rubbish in there.
No, that's your point of view.
There's fairy tales and illogical things in there.
No,
one should believe in it.
Do you not think there's more nuance to it? Do you not think there's a more nuanced way of looking at ancient spiritual stories?
Can I finish my point?
No, either a claim is true, like either it's true that there are Juj and Majuj, like a tribe of people hiding behind a metal wall somewhere on the planet Earth between two mountains.
No, bro.
That are going to be trapped.
Can I finish? Okay. But you should go to Christians.
Either that story is true.
Bro, that's wrong. You come because of this after Muslims. That might be okay. In your view, that might be a fairy tale. But you should go to Christian. In the Bible, it says, if your daughter gets married and the husband finds out that she is not a virgin, when she comes back home, you should kill her.
Yeah,
you should go to Christians.
Yeah, but they don't really believe in it.
No,
whereas, there
bro,
are lots of
there
Muslims
are Christian preachers here.
Because
you should go to them and ridicule them.
Yeah, I can try
but you come to Muslims.
I can find
look
Muslims
at this, look at that.
To bring about Sharia law. I can't find.
Because you're sitting on the surface. But
in
there's
the future, would you like for the ideal state to have Islamic law?
You shouldn't believe anything for any reason.
Anywhere that.
No, but that's his personal view.
I know, but I've got a question.
Yeah, but then once people have become Muslims, you'd like Sharia law.
You're talking about a fantasy, mate.
Why is it a fantasy?
Because you're talking about a whole world becoming Muslim.
So
how is that 7% taken over and making people? That's a fantasy.
No,
it's not a fantasy.
James' problem is. Can I explain James' problem?
You're just delaying it. By one stage.
James. Your problem.
Saying, I don't actually want Sharia law, but then you think, but if everyone became Muslim, then I would like Sharia law.
No,
okay.
that's your problem, James.
You're just hiding it by one stage.
Wait. James, that's your problem. You from your Western. Can I finish? Can I make a point, brother? Because you're saying, see, it's very hard that another side takes certain words of Arabic which have different meanings and give it a different definition. You just said Sharia law. If I say Sharia law to you, you will say chopping hands.
Okay,
but wait, let me finish. If I say Sharia law, I will never connect Sharia law to something like chopping hands. I would say Sharia law. Wait, let me finish. Wait. No, you are defining words. Okay, if I say Islam,
Hudud is part of Sharia.
Let me finish. If I say in the Western Hemisphere, if I say Islam to any Westerner, they will say terrorism. But if you go to the Muslim world, if you say Islam, they will not connect Islam with terrorism ever. If I say jihad, in the Western Hemisphere, they will connect it with terrorism. But if you go to a Muslim world and say jihad, they have a different meaning.
It means holy war.
You are
That's according to Islam.
According to you.
No, according to Muslim
You
scholars.
have redefined our word.
Let me ask you.
I've redefined
You
jihad.
redefine, yes.
Why don't I read what actual Muslim scholars say about jihad?
You're not giving a holistic approach. You answer everything.
You don't go to Christians
I
and
go
say,
to Muslim scholars. Why are you saying that I'm redefining jihad? No, you're talking nonsense.
If I say Islam,
What's struggling in the path of Allah? What is struggling in the path of Allah?
Well, there's different types.
Okay, so you're giving one definition.
Yeah, but the main definition. No, but the main definition means war.
You're telling us to take one definition only.
Jihad is it internal jihad?
So let me ask you.
There's different
If I can
views
take
about
this to a
that.
different tangent. Because there's an interesting question to ask you.
The best
That isn't
jihad
about the
is
surface
definitely
issue.
jihad. Like what they're doing in Rabbit Eye right now.
There's literally
Praise the Lord.
I'm sorry, but there is literally another
That's
hadith
my
that's
point.
related to
You are
Sahih that says
redefining
that the
things.
best jihad is the one who
But
rides on their
everyone's going to
horse
pick the
and
side.
I get it.
Affects their political
spills blood.
Is your name James, right?
Yeah.
Right, I have one question and I'll probably leave. Does a story need to be true to have value?
Respect. If I say Sharia law, it comes to my head taking care of my
It
mother
depends.
and father.
Yeah, not
But
necessarily.
when he says Sharia
But
law,
I think
chopping hands.
even if
See,
you believe
he
in something that's totally
redefines
benign,
things.
that's
For
kind
me,
of
when
false. So
I
even
say
if you believe in,
Sharia
let's
law,
say,
those things, nothing comes
astrology,
first in my head.
like
No.
I think it's still
Probably
bad
never.
for people to have this belief system where they
That's
don't
my point.
accept
Yeah.
things.
He
They don't like judge it
redefining
according
words.
to evidence
For
and
us.
rationality,
For us.
because that
For us.
leaves them
Yeah.
vulnerable to
Not
other
by
types
us,
of
for
nonsense.
us.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from there. But
For us,
can you
by
have,
us.
And I hope you understood.
can you have a spiritual belief that you can't scientifically quantify and also be a scientific rationalist? I would say you can.
It depends what those specific claims of those spiritual beliefs are.
Well, why? Because it might not have that much of an effect other than your own security with existential problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if it doesn't, if it only has like limited effects, then potentially sure.
Because one moral dilemma I've had is people who go around and maybe try and take the moral axioms out from under people because they think they're ridiculous and they might be left with nothing. But if they're not spreading something that is negative to others, why do that? You know what I mean?
James,
if
you're
somebody's
in a
got a
room
spiritual belief
that
it's
has
not harming
one
others,
window,
you might argue it might.
and you're looking through Islam
shouldn't take
through
that
that
away from
window
them.
only.
If
other thing.
if there would be kind of like a worse outcome from taking away that spiritual belief, then I would do it. So I think in most
I think
cases,
there is.
I think in most cases, like it's beneficial though, and especially in, like
I'm not sure about that.
Like for example, if there was like an 80-year-old person who kind of had just seen their daughter die of cancer, and she herself was about to die, and like it just gave her comfort to believe that there's an afterlife or something. I wouldn't like kind of try and deconvert her, just say, oh, that what you believe in is false. But like. Still, the general trend is that it would be better for people not to believe in things that are false and are
Why
kind of
though?
irrational.
Why?
Because like I said, it leaves you vulnerable to other types of nonsense and irrational beliefs if you kind of say to people, oh, a good way of finding out whether things are true is just to have faith in them, that sort of thinking. And also, like, these kinds of doctrines that they have, like these kind of old holy books, contain a lot of immoral guidances, which maybe they aren't aware of, but they can easily be made aware of, and that can later affect their behavior. Like, for example, if someone says, like, I believe that absolutely everything that the prophet Ishmael did was morally right, and then later you show them, oh, the prophet Ishmael kind of said that you should sort of cast out your children if you see them eating pigs.
Right.
Let's see. Then they might start doing that in the future, and that'll be a negative outcome.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. So maybe another way to tackle the problem would be, rather, the problem is that people hold on to everything as it being maybe literally true, and they think that they have to accept everything in order to be a Muslim, for example, or something else. But you don't, from my understanding, you don't need to. There's deep existential problems that, if you think about them, are present in all of our minds. The classic questions of what are we, where are we, when are we, what is my awareness thinking of? And if you're not prepared for these things, they can give you deep trouble. You know what I mean? Deep trouble in life. Nihilism. And it can be a shield to nihilism. And not to say it doesn't have negative effects like what you listed there. It can. I think there might be might obviously disagree with me, but there might be a benevolent balance that you can strike between spiritual belief and avoiding complete irrationality. That's my stance.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Good point.
Like,
good point.
It depends. Yeah, it depends what shape spiritual belief takes. Like, spiritual belief doesn't need to be kind of based on sort of dogmatic, unfounded beliefs or scripture.
It doesn't. Yeah. One other thing to say, I had this discussion earlier with many people really, is that in order for humans to function successfully together in a society, they generally, from my understanding, need to have a set of shared axioms, or they won't be able to trust each other and work together. That's why I don't think anarchistic principles can work on the large scale. So I would say that is the base structure of all religious systems, is a set of shared axioms that allow people to live successfully beyond their king group.
That's a good point
That could be why
to
religions
unite
came
you.
about.
Well, I think that's why they still exist. I think we have an instinctive
William.
drive to do something like that.
William Wallace. to unite you, isn't it? To unite
Well, it is. That's how it works
like,
in the real
like
world.
in the Quran, says, all the Muslims are brothers. Whatever nationality you are, you can be black, you can be Chinese, you can be. It brings you in one thing. In what? In the belief in God.
So my
It
point
unites you
is that has
in the
value.
same point.
And I'm fully aware of the irrationality. I've been in some extreme situations about the things that you mentioned. But I also try and expand it and see how it might actually help to stabilize societies. Because if you look, you're familiar with Nietzsche.
Not really.
Well, you should read about the death of God. Like when he was talking about the fall of Christianity, the moral axiom's been taken out under society.
And the hypocrisy of
and the World War I, World War II, and the collapse. And that's more or less where we're sitting. It's a very interesting idea, and I'm wary of that, you know? Because there's flaws on both sides, but I think we form spiritual belief for a reason. That's what I mean. I wouldn't throw it out because you think it's ridiculous. I think there's deep meaning in there somewhere, you know?
Okay. Well, one kind of thing to consider is that we might think that kind of religion gives us the best or the only kind of answer to spirituality just because it's what's been present so far, but in reality there could be kind of much better ways of fostering communities and fostering senses of togetherness and values that aren't kind of based on religion, and we'll do a better job of it. Kind of, we can't assume that this is necessarily kind of what's best.
Okay, I feel you. I understand you on that.
Shame on you.
What I would say that maybe is a good thing to pursue, because I'm not sure. I don't know what you think. I'm not familiar
Shame on
really.
you.
I just seen you go after Islam and stuff, and fair enough. But
Mr. X, tell him.
I think that the idea you need to take into account
Mr. X.
those existential questions and
That's why I
problems
said Mr.
that
X.
rationality and science can't really handle. Because I mean, I came from that standpoint. I used to be probably a hard rationalist. I read a lot of Dawkins and stuff too. I've progressed. I've had a number of spiritual experiences myself and things like this. And science allows you to handle this world very effectively. But there's other ways, there's other things that come to you that it will not be able to help you. And it's fascinating that these different realms of consciousness, if you know what I mean, different ways of perceiving the universe or the world or your life or your consciousness, these have great value. It's like the next level of exploration. And I don't really think, like, for example, the scientific method might not help in that regard. So if you want to structure a successful society, maybe in the physical realm and the economic realm, you run on rationalist principles. But on like the social bonding mechanism, shared axioms that are to relate to a spiritual reality might be more effective. There you go.
Yeah.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But
that's me. I'm out.
I know. Yeah, I still don't think that. Yeah, I still don't think like religions are the best way to go about it, especially the ones that we have at the moment. Like, criticism needs to be done on these harsh dogmatic beliefs that, and not just like kind of looking at a kind of sentence that says like hit your wife or something, and then like telling yourself, oh, maybe it just means tickle your wife. Like that's not authentic or honest. Like, you need to actually say, no, this is wrong. We can do better.
But okay, I agree with you. So maybe a strategy that would be more effective would be to think about that moral question about discipline or something like that, or about the problems of drugs in a society and what the morality is or what the punishment should be, and take it out of the religious dogma, but still consider it as a spiritual question. You know? Because you can separate the dogma, because people are still going to have their agreements, but they say, where does it come from? It comes to the Quran. Okay, whatever. You can separate that and think, but why? You know, and progress it. You might be able to move that way.
A lot of them, you know, the answer will just be because the religion says so. Like, they'll never justify it on any other level.
Sure, but that might be what they say, but it might not be what they think. Because a lot of people, if that's where they've come from, if that's been their upbringing, might not be secure enough to consider another idea. Because some questions that you can ask about reality can send you down a spiral that you can maybe not get out of. Like, psychological nihilism is a real thing.
I mean, do you think the danger of, you know, having a slight existential crisis about like, oh, maybe there is no purpose, like maybe I'm just alone in the universe. Do you think like the danger posed by that is comparably great to the danger posed of like becoming more radical or fundamentalist?
I think they're related. I think they're tied in intrinsically.
But which causes more harm to society, do you think?
I'm not sure I can answer that, but it's a good question, because maybe the deeper the existential crisis, the more you push towards radicalism, because the more secure it makes you feel. You know? You know what I mean? It makes sense to me in some regard.
Some people might have gone down that journey. I'm not sure if that's the most common sort of journey towards.
Maybe not.
religious radicalism.
Maybe not. I know from experience that if you start getting the things that you believe in and hold on to taken out from you, if you're trying to clutch around in darkness for something solid that you know is true, that can be it's actually a lot of cause of suicide is from that, man. You know, and never mind suicide, it can lead people to think that there's no meaning to anything and they can do whatever they like, and you can, if you look at the, school shooters, for example, if you ever actually research it and look into what they say is the reason why they're doing it, quite a lot of the times they're going a path of nihilistic, I don't know how to say it, despair, where they think that there's no consequences to their actions. They feel the malevolence in the world because that's it. You think about it. Think about the
often, isn't it? Or resentment.
Oh yeah, resentment towards existence. Because why not?
Or no, resentment towards the social group that
that's
they feel
their
rejected
existence.
from. Okay, but it's. I know I think it's less like they have this epiphany, like, oh, I'm sort of alone in the universe. Like everything is just chemical reactions. It's less that kind of epiphany, and more like kind of, I've been bullied, or these people are being so unjust towards me. These cliques, like these popular kids. It's like I think it's more kind of like bitterness rather than like sort of an existential realization that will.
I would say that they're very much linked. If you start to question justice, if you look at the malevolence in the world, the malevolence you might experience, or the one within your own heart that you might actualize, you might come to the conclusion that you don't know where you are or what you are. And if you look at, for example, terrorist regimes where you have genocide and mass murder on a catastrophic scale, those did not happen by chance. Those things, from my limited understanding, have deep causes within the deep psychology of man. They're not just because, there was one crazy guy and everyone went along with it because they were scared. People actually, I can't really articulate it that much anymore, man, but like when you've got, for example, like Cambodia or the what do you call it, the Cultural Revolution in China, like look at the psychology of the people that pushed that. People are trying to put order upon a chaotic world.
Okay, but you can see, for example, genocides and atrocities happening within like deeply religious societies that think they have everything worked out.
Oh yeah, sure. No, I'm not trying to defend that either. I'm wanting to look at the
It's not necessarily like a safeguard against preventing this kind of giving. If you tell people like, this book's from God, like that's not necessarily going to prevent kind of big genocides like we saw in the like there are various atrocities in the latter days of the Ottoman Empire that are kind of not on the same scale, but it was like an earlier time in history, so nothing was on the same scale.
No, I understand. I just my point is.
Do you think I'm being too rough with people or something?
Yes, in some regard, I think maybe it depends on what you want to achieve. Of course, I mean, if I don't know what you want to achieve, fine. But from my perspective, it's not a good act to take away someone's understanding of life without having something strong and positive to replace it with that they can actually go into.
Well, what do you mean by strong and positive? Like, if you consider, like, I consider, for example, liberal values to be a strong and positive improvement over kind of orthodox Islamic values.
All right.
Certainly in several respects.
Can liberal values undermine itself?
Yeah.
Well, that's an important thing to consider.
So can Islamic values undermine itself? If you mean like contradicts itself, is that what you mean by undermine?
No, I don't mean that. I mean, from my understanding, there needs to be a balance within society between, very roughly, conservative and liberal ways of thinking. There needs to be a balance between those. If it goes on either side, you see a lot of chaos and nothing good comes out of it. There's like the polarity between the left and right hemisphere of the brain, and between maybe half and half of society. Right. Like, for example, I talked to a girl I know, and she very liberal ideas, very socialist ideas, very idealistic in way of thinking. For me, I understand where she's coming from, and then I see reality from an entirely different perspective. I have different experiences, but I see how the way she thinks and the way I think can work together. Are you serious, man? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Why?
What? Why? Like, you've just like had a go at me for like telling people kind of to be less religious. Are you just saying like kind of she shouldn't like proudly proclaim her religious beliefs?
What's the motivation of that?
Like preaching. Is
it effective?
It's not really any different from Dawah in a way.
You think?
Yeah, like
I respect Dawa a lot more than that.
that's pretty astounding. I thought you'd be more fair than that. It seems like, I know.
That's just irritating.
She wasn't shouting it right in your ear. She was like, I know, a meter away from you or something.
I don't know, I'm just getting very, very bored with this park.
Okay, fine. Anyway, that was a side point, but yeah. So, like, what does need to replace if I want to show someone, listen, your thoughts on divorce. This is what Islam says about divorce. Like, this is iniquitous, this is unfair, and so you should stop believing in it. And like, what should I replace? What should I do to safeguard them against existential spiral or something? So what's unfair is that a husband can unilaterally divorce the wife by saying, I divorce you once, and whereas the wife cannot divorce the husband in this way, according to Islamic law. Yes.
See, this is why it's pointless.
No,
because
not true.
it's all about the surface details. It's I think it's this, you think it's that. It doesn't say this in the book. Did that guy say this?
Yeah.
It's absolutely pointless. It's a waste of energy.
I'm sorry. Anyway.
I'm not very interested in being here anymore.
So, like, what should you replace it with?
Well, to go back to a previous point, is like this interaction here. Like, I could predict that coming with 100% certainty, and nothing of value comes out of that for you or for him or for me or for them. You know, nothing of value at all, because he's going to defend his view because he needs to defend it, and you might want to attack it because you think it's iniquitous, but nothing of value comes out of that. You know,
other people might see what's true.
There could be a wrong side and a right side. So I'm urging the audience actually to look at the Quran and see whether this man's claims are actually genuine.
They are. There is Islam. There is Quranic evidence
the
that
city of Islam. So anybody who defines the city actually cannot be claimed to be Islamic. Period. So all these
it's not going against the Quran. It's
and he just made an
not.
accusation that they know better.
Have you ever gone to an Islamic? So when you hear a Muslim scholar say this is how divorce works in Islam, do you actually try and disagree with them?
Absolutely. I'll ask them, where did you get that from?
Okay, so you should do that to a lot of Muslim scholars.
Absolutely. I don't believe many people who claim to be Muslim are Muslim.
Okay,
Fair
enough. You're an unorthodox
They cannot be
Muslim. Fine.
Muslim and just say commenting the
Okay,
Quran.
okay.
So somebody can't be a mathematician if they don't know the rules of wrong division.
Alright. Anyway, so yeah, but like, what should like replace? Like, I
here's
want
a
to show.
Here's a different strategy. I can't give you an answer of what should you replace it with just by default. But what I can say is a strategy of discussion that I've used myself is talk about the ideas, try and eliminate talking about anything to do with religion, but only to do with the real world social utility of an action. You know, something that you can actually demonstrate, or you can say somebody can recall an anecdote from their life they might remember or might be able to emphasize with something like that. That's what I mean. Rather than attacking their axioms, because they're always going to have to defend it. I had to have this discussion with Pavlov. You know Pavlov, right?
Yeah.
The Ukrainian guy. And because he has previously gone after people in a similar manner, and it's not, from my understanding, it's not productive at all. Because you're putting them in a position where they must defend themselves, or they'll have to renounce their beliefs, their community, their friends, their family, and their history, which is ridiculous to ask somebody to do. But what you can do is suggest possible alternatives to ways of thinking. And people will come to different conclusions. That may be how progress is made.
Okay. And different strategies will work for different people, right?
Yeah. Well, yes. I think the least confrontational strategy is usually the best, because the subconscious works in its very strange ways that I don't claim to understand. But generally, once you introduce certain ideas, they might have a conflict within the mind and they start to play out. And hopefully, if you do that in a nice way, in a relaxed way, it won't result in a undercut. You know, more of a progression of a natural. You know how maybe your views 5 years ago are different from your views now, or your understandings of the way that you perceive reality are different. The same thing happens within all people, maybe at different rates. That's my understanding.
Okay. Yeah.
Fine.
Sure.
So
What's your name? Like William?
William.
Oh yeah. My name's James.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Let's leave it there.
Yeah. Let's leave it.
Content over everything. From your humanity.
Man say it straight. Man don't listen to BBC. Man don't listen to ITV.
But we're not putting in a big problem. That listen, you guys are killing babies and children. You know why? In Samuel. Do you know the reason? Because something happened 500 years ago. Imagine I tell you go kill babies and children of the French. If you tell me why, Shamsi, I said, you know, French people 500 years ago, they did something. You're going to tell me, no, brother. They have nothing to do with their 500 years ago. Let alone they are children and babies. So how dare you speak out? You know, last week I said I'm not going to come down. But I should not let the people